when phones just ring, emails ignored, service drugs high, can't be afforded. You're stuck down low, heat turned off, doors won't lock, emergency lighting off, fire hazards high, no one to fix. One more to say, it's the GSA Way.
Hello, welcome to the first podcast, the GSA Way. This one is focused entirely on my own landlord, GreenSquareAccord, and the trouble therein. Hope you like the music there. That's the production budget blown for the year. If we had a production budget, it would have been well worth it. I think you'll agree. Look, I'm going to start these ones. These are going to be short and concise and a lot more relaxed, hence the settee in the background there. This first one is just an introduction as to why we've done it, why we're setting this one up, and what we hope to achieve from it. So this is episode 1 of This is the GSA Way.
Heat turned off, doors won't lock, emergency lighting off, fire hazards high, no one to fix. One more to say, it's the GSA Way. Fire hazards high, no one to fix. One more to say, it's the GSA Way. It's the GSA Way.
Okay, so look, why have 2 podcasts? Have you gone mad? Has the ego finally taken off? Well, yeah, to a certain extent. I do quite enjoy doing these, I must admit. But the real reason is, as the same reason I set up the housing sector website. I had a GreenSquareAccord residence website that was set up, and I thought, well, hang on a minute, there must be a way of bridging this gap between provider and resident, and I don't want to bring all the baggage from GreenSquareAccord, who are an appalling landlord. They are one of the worst. But I have that first-hand experience, and we've got no end of examples to show and prove that it isn't just the sort of me having a moan. These are valid and warranted reasons, and I think during the course of however long, next 12 months, next 18 months, we'll see another merger or a complete collapse of GreenSquareAccord as we know it. And possibly others, I fear. But look, the reason for distancing this on the housing sector is more about, come on, the whole sector. Let's find ways of making it work. I've given up trying to make it work with GreenSquareAccord. I think they're unfixable. But we need to keep raising the issues and we need to hold them account. So this one, we can do this in short, concise little 10 to 15 minute videos where we talk about an issue, and we've got loads of them. An issue, and we focus on it and we drill down and we move on to the next one the following week. The plan is to have the housing sector podcast go out on Monday, and these to go out sort of Friday afternoon. But basically a bit of a laugh for people in the office on a Friday afternoon. Look, I'm a very reasonable man. Ask anyone. I'm a very reasonable man until I'm pushed into being not reasonable. And GreenSquareAccord keep pushing that way. Now, if you consider this, I started to raise issues when I moved in. I moved in 2015. I said 2016. It was 2015. July 26, 2015 I moved in. It was my 40th birthday. Me and my then girlfriend, now wife, had known each other for years, and we had this sort of suddenly this whirlwind romance, and it all seemed to align and come together. And then the place that I was living in, I had to be out of quite quickly. So very quickly, we sort of like, wow, moved in together, and it's been brilliant. It's been the best thing in my life ever, being married to my wife and living it's just been difference in night and day. So 2015, in 2016, I started to raise issues, and these were leaks in the basement. I still got those going on today, although they're different leaks, to be fair. The doors were being forced open by gangs of youths who just roam around the corridors and smoke weed and threaten and beat up people and steal bikes. That was a valid one. The lift kept being stuck, people getting stuck in the lift. The fire alarms kept going off, smoke alarms kept tripping. It was on and on. And I started off through the customer service desk, didn't get anywhere with that. So then applied more pressure by putting more people on copy and went further and further up the chain. And in the end, I had Ruth Cook, who was reasonably new at that point to the CEO role, and the whole of the board. At which point, lo and behold, we got a response from someone, and that was Julianne Britton, who's now their customer service director. I'm not sure what she was at the time then, probably head of call centre or something. But we had a conversation and things seemed to be going in the right direction. Promises were made. Of course, we now know that none of them happened. They were able to stop a leak once they told Thames Water that there was a major leak, and this was during quite a hot spell, and that they might want to come and have a look. And once GreenSquareAccord were aware of that, letting it leak for about 2 weeks, they finally sent someone to shut it off, and it was a fault with their plant equipment as part of their air conditioning units or whatever it was. The lifts ended up being part of a housing ombudsman complaint. To be fair, they've stopped breaking down. They were still breaking down very regularly up until about 2 months ago. And you don't realise something's not been reported. And you go, oh, hang on a minute, we haven't had the lifts break down. They used to routinely break down 3 times a month, and we'd report it, and they come out and it would get stuck. It would say it was on the 32nd floor, considering there's only 3 floors here. That was a little bit hard to believe, but it would say it was on the 32nd or 27th floor. They finally seemed to fix that, and the ombudsman said you need to have someone come out and do a proper review. That happened, and we had that review. So, but it still broke. They were still broken for a long time. But now they genuinely seem to be fixed. We had problems with the ground. Now our grounds have been up over the last couple of weeks. So well done, GreenSquareAccord. You have finally delivered something that we pay you for. So thank you very much indeed for that. I doff my hat to you. Thank you. Who would have thought it on Roof Cook's watch that we could get our lifts fixed and our grasses cut and our bushes trimmed back and hedges trimmed and paths made safe. But anyway, we've done it. So look, what was the real catalyst for this podcast was, and I'm rattling through some of this because this is just an introduction one. Some of you may know, and I'll put a QR code you can link to on the website. Rather than working with me, rather than saying, actually, we've got an active and involved tenant here who's willing to go the extra mile and put people on copy and make us aware of things, we could work with this guy. What we could do as we lose our presence within Oxford because we've stretched ourselves too thin in other counties, we could say to this fella, sure, look, here's a little toolkit. Why don't you tighten up the door handles when you know they're loose? Why don't, instead of us having 43 residents emailing us separately, why don't we say to you, can you report these? And you could become like a liaison. We could work together. No. That wouldn't be the GSA way, would it? No, instead, they put me on a communication ban and said, you can't email us. We know you're sending us stuff that's valid, but you can't email us. At which point I said, okay, well, I'll build a website and put it all online. I'll put it on LinkedIn. I'll put it on Twitter. I'll put it on Facebook. So I did that. That is why we've got the GreenSquareAccord residence website. And their response to that, after I got the housing ombudsman involved, the housing ombudsman then came in and went, yeah, these complaints are all valid. You need to pay him about £3,000. And then they paid all my resident neighbours 1,200 quid for just not being able to provide a level of service that would keep us safe in our own homes. So once that happened, they had a big meeting about that. They complained to the ombudsman, no, you've been unfair. It's not reasonable. It's not fair. We pay to have the windows fixed. Yeah, the windows that we've been complaining about for years that we couldn't shut. Some residents couldn't open them. Other residents couldn't shut them. So they had to pay to have some of that. Oh no, but we've given him some compensation. And the housing ombudsman rightly went, no, you didn't. You can't claim to have given compensation before you've been instructed to do it. And then they said, we don't like you saying that our records aren't up to date. But there were 3 or 4 examples within the report where GreenSquareAccord said, I'm sorry, our records aren't up to date. So they were really annoyed about the housing ombudsman victory. Really annoyed. And within a week, I then received, first of all, they sent it to the wrong email address, but they initiated legal action where basically they said, you mustn't put names on people. You mustn't put names on LinkedIn. You mustn't use hashtags. You must take your website down immediately. You mustn't use email addresses. The one that my wife particularly loves, and I often hear her laughing about this, and she tells people, my husband's been taken to court for being annoying. They actually put in there that I wasn't allowed to do anything that might annoy anyone at GreenSquareAccord. So I could be stood on my balcony and successfully celebrating the fact that I've blown my nose, and they could go, "You're annoying." I could sneeze too loudly in my own flat, and they could go, "That's annoying," and I could be taken to court for breaching whatever it was they wanted. It was that much. And that when the judge saw it, she just went, this is what we call a backdoor prosecution, and you're trying to bring copyright infringement into the county court. They really got slated, but this isn't about the court case. We'll cover all the court case. I'm due in August 6th in October in Oxford. If anyone is interested and in the area, I don't expect you to, but if you are, it's nice. No, the reason that I'm now doing this is because we had part of the court agreement was I paid for a lawyer before we went to court. And this lawyer said, look, you could get a really bad judge and they could push back on you and they could cause all sorts of trouble. Why don't you provide some undertakings that you do in the letter to the judge? And then the judge goes, oh, he's very reasonable. He's agreed to some already, and then we can sort of thrash it out there. So I did. I gave some undertakings. I stripped down what they said they wanted. I took out things like, I'm annoying. I am annoying. I took that out, and quite a few of them. And then when we got in front of the judge, it was clear that they didn't have a case, and I didn't need to offer any of them. So I stripped them down further. But for the sake of my wife, who's worried sick, for the sake of the stress that it puts on everyone, and it's designed to be stressful. When you've got people turning up at your door handing you legal papers, and you've got people threatening all sorts, and you don't know what's going to happen, it is, by design, very intimidating, very threatening, very stressful. So I thought, look, let's get this over and done with. We'll throw these undertakings at them as reduced as they were. It allows me to carry on my website. It allows me to carry on supporting not just my neighbours but other residents. And I can then focus on the housing sector website, which, if you like, is my more legitimate arm of social housing activism. So that was a plan, and we agreed that, and that all went well. And then I think it might have been before Christmas. Oh, me. Sorry.
Been creaky, hedges overgrown, money's being wasted. Where did it all go?
All right, sorry about that. Amazon deliver. You wait all day for them, and then they will turn up. Right. Okay. Where were we? So now we've got the cat involved. So the legal action was, we thought, put to bed. But no sooner was it put to bed that then GreenSquareAccord have accused me of breaching said undertakings. I haven't breached them at all. But their lawyers have said to my lawyers, well, he didn't really act in the spirit of them, or whatever that means. So we've got to go back to court. So it's clear that GreenSquareAccord are just going to keep stretching this on. And the reason they do that is it gives them the excuse that they can say, no matter what I do or say, they can go, oh yeah, we're taking him to court over that. There's legal action pending. It's all bullshit. Don't believe a word of it. And in August the 6th, we'll update, and we'll do a big podcast on the housing sector and everyone about this. And we're going to get the transcripts as well. But I digress. So August 6th. So that's coming up. They pretty much know themselves that they don't have a chance of winning that, because it's just completely unfounded and it's just a waste of time. So we've had an ongoing issue here with water leaks, sewage leaks. Again, we'll cover that at a later date. So I arranged, me and actually some residents, we all arranged to get some councillors here. Let's get some local councillors here so they can see it for themselves, and we'll try and get support, because we keep getting told, oh, it's in your flat, it's not our problem. Well, these are definitely communal flats, communal floods, you can see them. But this podcast's not about that. We're going to cover that in full at a later date. However, on the 2nd of July, I got an email from their latest head of legal. Now, it seems Sophie Atkins is probably too, I'm not getting involved. I think I'll just send someone else out. Now, this head of legal has been there about a year. So it takes about 6 months before you go, oh my God, what have I done? And then about 6 months to build your exit plan. And then probably 6 months to sort of find that job and get out. So perhaps we'll see her depart very soon. Perhaps I'll see her at court on the 6th of August. However, the email does read, Dear Mr. Jenkins, we would like to remind you that the terms of the court undertakings that you made 9 November 2023, Section 2A, prevents you, either yourself or by instructing, encouraging or permitting any persons to contact our employees, agents or contractors directly. This includes approaching our contractors and employees on site. In the event of any confrontation, we have advised our employees and contractors to leave the property to ensure their safety. We have also asked them to gather evidence which we will use to enforce any breach of the undertaking. Please be advised that this will delay or prevent us from carrying out essential works for the benefit of yourself and other residents. Yours sincerely. I won't name her because that would breach an undertaking, because I understand the undertakings that are provided. Yours sincerely, Head of Legal. Look, the first thing that's in that, there's a bit in the first paragraph where it says about what I've agreed to. Now, I'm going to keep a little bit of that back because that might be me giving away too much before we go to court. So we'll leave that as is. But this bit where it says, this includes approaching our contractors and employees. No, it doesn't. Absolutely does not. Doesn't include that at all. And then she was kind enough to provide a copy of the undertakings, which I'll post up here so you've got them as well. And then it's, in event of any confrontation, we've advised our employees and contractors to leave the property to ensure their safety. I have never put any of them at risk. I mean, broken lifts, gangs of youths, fire hazards, smoke alarms, they're risks to safety and they're validated. I've never put anyone to risk. In fact, the contractors that come round here often rely on me to show them where the issues are, to allow them access, to get them into bits of the building that they can't get into because they never have the right keys. And that has been the case, well, for the last 10 years. So it's absolute nonsense. But anyway, there's more important things. She shouldn't be contacting me. We've got a legal case going on. So, dear, this is my reply. Dear, please ensure all correspondence are directed to my lawyer. And I've given my lawyer's details. Furthermore, it is unacceptable to suggest that GreenSquareAccord's inability to carry out necessary work is my responsibility. It isn't my responsibility if you can't carry it out, if you're going to use that as an excuse. Additionally, I find it inappropriate to imply that I pose a risk to your employees or contractors, causing them to feel frightened or unsafe. I have never acted in a manner that would endanger or intimidate anyone. Such characteristics are both unfounded and unfair. To clarify, as you know, the court undertaking dated 9th of November 2023 solely prevents me from initiating contact with your employees or contractors. It does not restrict me from approaching them on site. There have been instances where your contractors and staff arrived without ensuring they could gain access to the property, without knowing the specific locations of issues needing attention, and without keys to service cupboards. It is often your team that requires my assistance to facilitate the work efficiently. And I put my lawyer on copy. And now I replied to this woman, but because they've still got a block on my email, despite the fact they paid for the court costs, my emails go through to the customer service desk. So they would have been lost in the customer service queue for at least 10 days, I can assume. But because my lawyer replied to me, thanks for putting me on copy, Ben, she also kept her in copy, their head of legal in copy, so that one went through because it wasn't subject to the same blocks. Suddenly, my lawyer gets a phone call from this head of legal because she shouldn't have contacted me. She knows she's making it up and she's probably been told to do so by Miss Atkins. So she then rings her up. I'm assuming to do some sort of damage control. And my lawyer said, you can't speak to me. We need your lawyers to speak to lawyer. It says lawyer to lawyer. It's not... But they won't do it because they probably can't afford it anymore. I mean, this whole shenanigans has probably cost them close to 20 grand. And, you know, the time that they have staff that have to come over to Oxford to initiate it. So it's just further action. But I guarantee that this is the next thing they're going to try and do. Now, it did so happen that I have seen contractors. I've seen some today. And I am always perfectly nice to them. And I always offer them a cup of tea, the cheese toasty. I'm old school. If someone comes to your home to fix something, you offer them a cup of tea, at least. I say, if you deliver an Amazon parcel, you get offered a Kit Kat or a glass of water. So I'm always that way. And some of them have said, no, I'm not allowed to talk to you. And I say, well, you're not allowed to talk to me, then how can I help you get to the parts of the building? I know, it's a bit silly, isn't it? And they kind of like me more than they like their employees to a certain extent, because what right do their employees have to tell them who they can and can't talk to? You know, if you worked for me and I said, right, you work for me, I expect you here 35 hours a week. I'm going to pay you X amount for being here. I expect your work to be timely, professional. I expect you to be timely, professional. Everything we expect from an employee. But don't you dare speak to anyone who wears a red hat on a Thursday. I forbid it. It's bullshit. And it's the sort of attitude, it just shows this is the GSA way. So once they did that, I thought, right, we need to get ahead of the game. And I don't want the housing sector podcast to be just another offshoot of the GreenSquareAccord residents, the same as I didn't want the website to be. So if you like a ranty, more relaxed, let's talk about what a state GSA in are under with roof cooking control, then this is your podcast. If you're a resident struggling, let me know what you're struggling with. I am going to have to remove the complaints portal from the GreenSquareAccord residents website. Just getting too many. And GreenSquareAccord aren't dealing them. We'll cover their complaints and they're blocking and removing them and then closing them. We will cover that. That will probably be the next week. I tell you what, we'll leave on this final one, this final thought, if you like. So, because this is important, because it's the little things. If you can get the little things right, maybe you can do some of the bigger things. It's not under Ruth Cook's watch. Oh no. So we get these letters sent out. Now, and I'll put this so you can see it. It'll be there. So it's sent to the occupier. Now, the reason it's sent to the occupier, despite the fact they all know who we are and where we live, is because previously, in an upheld complaint, you can find here, they gave away the names and addresses. They printed it on double-sided. So it came through. So it had the letter on this side, and on the back side it had my neighbour's letter. So we all got the full names of our neighbours. Now that's not really a problem, but it is in the world of data protection, because I might have a massive falling out with my neighbour. I might not want my neighbour knowing my full name, so they can find me and stalk me on Facebook. Remember, there are women in this building who are have had vulnerable relationships, so they're not happy about having their details shared. So we made a complaint about that and it was upheld. So now we only ever get called the occupier, which is fair enough. Then it has the first line of the address, which they've gotten correct. Then the second line is incorrect. The third line is Wiltshire, where we live in Oxford, and then they've got the postcode correct, fortunately. So the postcode and the first line of address were enough to get them to our homes. But the Oxford postcode, and they've put Wiltshire as the town. If you can't even post a letter to your residents, how do we expect you to fix major leaks? How do we expect you to keep us safe from fire? How do we expect you to carry out boiler checks? How do we expect to ensure that your electrical wiring is safe? We can't. We can't. Under Ruth Cook's watch, we can't. This is the GSA way. I'll see you next week.